Hello and welcome to a frantic, crazy summer race. You guessed it, the Stowe Summer event is on and Foundry Roundtable is having fun in the sun. Currently doing the powerboard race as we do this intro. So
really
yeah,
hard.
it's not easy, especially at the end. Is not easy.
What? You mean you don't find the powerboard race to be relaxing and soothing after a frantic session of killing things?
Actually, the whole summer event is relaxing after many frantic sessions of killing things, isn't it? Summer and winter. So obviously, I'm Drogan1701, and with me is my usual co-hosts, Markhawkman, DuncanIdaho and Greendragoon.
Yay!
And we have a guest with us tonight. Welcome PaxFederatica back to the show.
Who will probably not get assimilated. Probably.
We can't guarantee any of that. Safety is not guaranteed on this podcast.
Yeah, so find extra Jagoros in your inventory when you're done this.
Jagoros everywhere. They just pop up randomly. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to just do all of the different summer events as they pop up and chat about random things as we do so. So while we're waiting for the next one, which is the biathlon, Pax, since you haven't been on the show in a little while, tell us what you have been working on.
Both a lot and not a whole lot, actually. I've kind of, my Total Eclipse series is kind of gone back to the drawing board as far as writing the rest of the series out. But in the meantime, I've also been going through and making a few minor fixes here and there to my older missions. And I am hoping that before too much longer, we get proper Jem'Hadar mobs in the Foundry, friendly ones, so I can put those in the 100th.
And of course, the ability to customize Jem'Hadar character costumes, because currently we are stuck with stock NPCs.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it was a little while before we got the
Romulans.
So.
And Kale's been on vacation.
This is true.
One other thing I've been doing kind of on the side here every once in a while is I'm helping SFC3, aka Naked Snake, with a little project on the Stowe Wiki. I'm taking screenshots of all the Romulan ships that I've got but I have them painted up just kind of with default skins and paint jobs, just so. And just to take screenshots of them for the Stowe Wiki.
It would be nice to have all of that, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So you could easily see what different materials would look like on the different ships.
Yeah.
Without having to ask on Reddit if anyone happens to have one. Because I've seen a lot of those crop up lately. Especially the vanity shields. Now that there's, about 3 of those?
Mm-hmm. A while back, I actually did a few YouTube videos demonstrating what certain of the vanity shields look like, simply because, well, it was the Discovery vanity shield, and I just happened to really like that one.
That was a nice one. What else do we got? We got Ferengi was the latest one.
Zenkethi,
yeah.
Did you guys mention the one from the Discovery?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the first one you mentioned.
One shield effect I've seen recently that I'm not sure what is, looks a lot like the old Riemann shield, except white instead of black.
I think it might be just the Riemann shield under different lighting.
Weird.
It's possible. I've seen it look a few different ways, just depending on what map you're on. Because I was running it on my console character because I got the one from the featured episode. So Mark, you also have been tweaking one of your old missions. Talk us through that.
Well, this is Diplomacy in the Gamma Quadrant, which is an old mission I did a long time ago as part of one of the Foundry challenges, which I'm trying to remember what the specific Foundry challenge theme was. It's not working. Whatever. Anyways, though, what I did for the mission was I had you do diplomatic negotiations with a group of Vorta in, of course, the Gamma Quadrant. What I did not do with the original mission was create unique costumes for all of the named characters in the story, and there's something like 24 of them. However, this week I went back and looked at all of them, and one, realized that a lot of the old costumes I made sucked, and two, I went and took all of some of the existing costumes, even the ones that I didn't think sucked, and made new ones out of them anyways, just because I thought it would look cool.
All right. Biathlon time.
Yay. I did some tweaks to the dialogue to reflect. Well, it didn't make it reflect the current status of the story. What I did was I clarified that the character in the story is Loris 3 and not Loris 4. Because, well, when you talk to her, she actually says that she's the same Loris that took over Deep Space Nine, and that's actually an in-story explanation is why the Dominion has her there, overseeing their efforts to keep the MacArthur in line. Is that she has at least some combat experience and that sort of thing.
I just had a massive rubber band in there. That was funny.
Yeah. For some reason, I keep going under the first ring and not through it. Anyway, though, but
that's the trick.
Things I did with this though, is I went through and used a bunch of costume options that we didn't have when I first made the mission to update some of the character costumes. One particularly fun thing was taking a look and asking myself, like, what would an Orion matron have as combat armor? Because, you know, Orions are a race who rather heavily prize looking cool.
Sex appeal. Let's just say it.
I mean,
that's basically why the women are in charge right there, right?
Well, what I'm getting at, though, is that they wear all of those, you know, kind of elaborate costumes because they think it looks awesome or what have you. Which was what I did is I took the Herald under bodysuit with all the like scrolling circuits and stuff, and then just used that as a bodysuit and stuck Orion appropriate accessories on top of it.
Oh, I didn't make it in time because I had to double back. I missed the flag on the transition to the
One
floater.
thing I find that's helpful is when you have that little like targeting slider at the top of the screen, it will show you the direction of the next ring that you need to go to. So it's somewhat useful for letting you know if you've missed one, because if you're facing the next ring and it's not pointing to what you're facing, well, you know.
The funny thing is, it still says there's a minute remaining on the biathlon, so I wonder why the timer is so short.
I think it's like that buffer minute between events.
Yeah, it's there's a time block on that timer for each event. There's like an extra empty minute at the end of the biathlon.
Yeah.
So next is the artifact scavenger hunt. We were talking about this a little bit before the show. You have to I don't think it's working properly, but you have to, for the scanner, be above the ground for it to actually display the little arrow.
If you're actually standing flat on the ground, a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time, it just doesn't display the red targeting thing.
Yep. So you got to get on your floater and float upwards.
Ironically, I've actually been completing the scavenger hunt
also,
without
if
having
you're
that.
standing on a rock or something that's like an irregular terrain feature, it'll work too.
Well, I have a map.
Or like if it's a
that
hillside
has all the locations
and
on
the
it.
targeting reticle is pointing downhill, it'll show you the targeting reticle because it's on the downhill side. But if it's on the uphill side, it won't show it to you.
Well, I've actually got a method for the scavenger hunt that
not, but it's what it is.
I've actually got a method for doing the scavenger hunt now. I go to the rooftop of the main building, initialize your scanner there, then fly to one of the two little towers on that main building, usually the one on the left, and scan again. And that's a good way to eliminate half the map right off the bat.
I like to start from the middle of the volcano.
One observation that I made that in the first event is that there is a specific number of points where the artifacts can spawn. Just memorize the locations of all of those, and if the targeting thing is pointing you in a general direction, and you know that there's only one artifact in that general direction, just walk to the point where the artifact is located.
Yeah, there's only about 16 places where the artifacts are. And they
yeah, something like that. There's actually a map on the Stowe Wiki if you want to look at the map.
Oops. Somebody's got their audio on.
Okay, I'll turn mine off.
So did you guys notice that there's a new Ferengi for this event, and it's voiced by Max Grodenchek?
It's the same Ferengi from Captain's Holiday.
From Captain's Holiday.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Who happened to also be played by Max Grodenchek.
Wait, is that an actual canon character that was voiced by Max Grodenchek in the show?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't start out playing Rom.
Did a whole bunch of Ferengi in the early days of TNG.
Yeah,
I knew he'd done several of them.
But yeah, it's the Ferengi that the Picard tangles with on his trip to Risa. So he was in the first episode with Risa.
Interesting.
I have to go back and watch that. It's been a long time since I've watched that episode.
It's got the Vorgons and Vash and Picard.
Yeah.
And
There's definitely a lot of things that Stowe has touchstoned in that episode.
yeah, when I first saw that, though, it was kind of like, I didn't want to make a comment because, did they update the Ferengi model last year? I wasn't quite sure about the voice, but I'm like, it would have made sense for a TNG anniversary if they would have done that, so I'm just like, yeah, screw it.
I obviously they just did that because they had Max around. They like to utilize their guest stars as much as they can.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes sense.
And also, this particular thing, it's not like he actually does a whole lot of voice lines for this character. It's only like one or two things. To hear, there's the voice line where he gives you the mission, the voice line where you turn in the mission, and the ones where he announces the beginning and end of the special event for the artifact hunting.
First, it takes somebody having the idea of, putting two and two together that, hey, Max did this other Ferengi character. We could use that character.
It's like Cryptic knows Star Trek.
Yeah. Because I don't think I would have
there's
had
all
that
these
idea.
people on the forum who keep trying to claim that the devs aren't real Trekkies, and then the devs do incredibly nerdy stuff like making a list of every character Max Grodenchik has ever played, and then using one of them just because they can.
I just found the Fenord too, so.
Yeah. See, apparently the Fnord thing was something that the devs put in because they didn't want to give the name of the. Oh, I found another costume with invisible floaters. That would be my Iconian costume.
I found a copy of Chicago Mobs of the 20s.
I'm finding plants, apparently.
I've already found my
plants
artifact
with
and
your
moved on
face?
to making sandcastles.
Are you finding plants with your face? I find that happens a lot when using a floater on Risa.
No, it's just getting the right direction here.
So it's things like fly forward, face plant into tree. Fly forward again. Oh, look, it's another tree. Whap!
Getting to the point where I'm close. The point where it's like, it should be right here.
So out of
Nope,
curiosity,
nope.
what do you guys do while you're waiting for...
Right now, I'm going up to trade in some feather monkeys.
Switch to
I'm
another
actually one
character
of
and
those
do the
people who
hunt
has a
again.
habit of swapping characters halfway through an event. Where, I mean, like for this event, you can have one character grab an artifact, swap characters to a different character, grab another artifact, and so on.
And
Yeah, you can do the Horgon hunt twice as well. There's enough time for that.
I can get it 3
been new.
times.
Oh,
yeah, I've done it 3 times.
Oh.
I found
You're so clever.
a copy
You can
of
do
the
it 3
Encounter
times.
at Excalibur Holosuite program.
Yeah, you just need
I'm
the
sure you can guess what reference that is.
and the Deer Stalker hat.
If I'm not doing that normally, I'm usually, I don't know, watching TV or something at the same time. So I just turn around and watch the TV for a bit till the next one pops up.
Well, I figured for me swapping characters didn't make for the greatest live stream, so for tonight I have to stay on this character.
Yeah. Well, while we're waiting, Duncan, what have you been working on lately?
So, Legacy Alpha. So, my KDF reboot of my first Foundry mission, and I'm rewriting everything. Got a little ways
All
of,
the
like,
things.
yeah, all the things, optional dialogue characters, main mission dialogue, because it's like, you know what, this is too familiar for a character setup where it's just like there's not enough conflict, not enough character development, and it's like, yep, a little too nice starting
That's
off. So
actually
it's like,
one thing that.
so I was going to say
One weird thing I noticed when I was going over diplomacy in the Gamut Quadrant is just how many typos I was able to find, even though I'd already gone over it looking for typos 3 or 4 times.
yeah, this is just basically just rewriting it in the context of I'm going to be setting new characters. I mean, even something like changing faction and deciding that, no, I'm not going to have these two around for this reason or another. It's one of those things where it's just you go through the project and you just sort of think about how it's working and you just be really vicious about what's not working. Because it's one of those things where you can go through a mission, you have a character that you like, and you spend a lot of time developing them. But if they're not necessary for the plot or a particular angle of the mission, then it does pay to say whether or not it's good to be developing so much time around them, or if you really want that character but they're not working, you could change the mission concept. So it's just a lot of variables to optimize around.
Figure out a way to make them actually integral to the plot.
Yes. So it's like, well, I wanted to do a security team, but then it's like, well, the security team doesn't actually make a whole lot of sense for this mission. So what about 2 characters and then just build just build basically a rotating cast around them of other people that you're interacting with across a broader mission. And that right now is where I'm at. It's like, okay, I'm not going to try to develop the 4 people go on a team because it's like, well, unless you have a good team dynamic and a good team plot for the mission, then it doesn't necessarily work so much. And I'm going to lose. Oh, no. I got my side castle. I was drudging it and I was missing the prompts. It's like, no, I'm going to lose it.
I'm a firm believer that the cutting room floor is an essential part of the creative process.
Yeah, you edit because you can't envision the entire project at once without you'll always discover more as you work on it. And you'll see how things work out. You see how things connect. And Yeah, it's definitely, you definitely allow yourself to work through the process. Don't get attached to an idea until you've actually developed it in full, because otherwise you might be pushing yourself either to work on something you legitimately just like find less interesting than the hypothetical project, which is working out better, or you ultimately end up with a mission that's not doing what you wanted it to. So right now, it's actually getting to be more like, at first it was like starting to veer away from what my first mission was, and now it's veering right back towards it, because it was a good setup. It's just I haven't really explored that to its full potential in subsequent
one
projects.
thing that I realized when I was going back and over all of the dialogue I wrote for Endless is that I actually wrote her as being someone who has an intense personal hatred for Klingons and specifically, and I don't actually remember why I wrote that.
Yeah, sometimes you can, like one of the characters, I wrote that she just does not understand food, because her species basically has been, through cultural reasons and circumstance, they do basically organic concentrates. They don't get into food as an activity. They basically just treat it as a necessity. And that was an interesting character tweak. It's just that it's sort of where that is in the project right now. Probably is going to stay, but because it has these other connections. So it feeds into her character, feeds into the society, the history, that sort of thing. So you can take that personal detail and build that out. But then you have some other things, which is like, plays the trombone, which I think I may have said for Ross at one point, but I mean, arbitrary stuff like that can tend to not contribute as much to the character, or just not stick around.
When you do things like create a
minor
whole
aspect,
when you do things like create a whole like character sheet for people, includes their talents, things they like to do, all that kind of stuff. It's sometimes that's just for you, the author. Or sometimes you might stick it in a throwaway line. Someone at the end of the mission says, "Hey, let's we did this thing, we fought this battle, let's have a party," and Ross says, "Hey, I'll get my trombone."
Or I'll get my trombone. No, I mean, there was going to be a harmonica joke in this mission, but that hit the cutting room floor, because it's like, well, I'm not going to go that direction with these characters, and then it's like, well, I'm not going to use these characters because I just didn't want to do another security team, because it's like, well, I do have SSF still going. So this one is more or less taking the concept, making that more of an independent mission, and then building that out and doing some more interesting things with some of the dynamics at the end. So it's kind of like, it's as much of a remake right now as, and some people might get this, as the new Evangelion movies, where they kind of start with a familiar point, and then where they end up is thematically related, but completely different. Because you're trying to tell, or even the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the various iterations of that, where you're trying to tell a story, but where that ultimately goes from the starting premise does depend on the medium. And in this case, it's depending on me making a mission now versus then, and also making a mission for the KDF.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I intentionally did when I wrote in Endless the first time was writing her as someone who is quite happy to literally threaten to kill you. She's like, "Oh, you're a Klingon idiot. Do what I say or I'll kill you." I mean, that's literally the sort of thing that she does in the story. And I intentionally wrote the character that way. It's just that for some reason, it's just one of the other Vorta, I put in this little like snippet of dialogue as like a half-baked explanation of Endless's motives for this, is that Endless for some reason blames Klingons specifically for the fact that she got assimilated by the Borg. And well, the Vorta who gives you this tiny piece of information isn't 100% sure it's correct. It's just her best guess as to why she hates Klingons.
It kind of, oh god. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here, but I think someone spotted themselves. Yeah, you might want to change instances, because I don't think there's many people here.
Hmm.
Yep, that's a bot farm.
It's one that's been popping up on Reddit.
Oh, that one? Yeah, I'm changing instances.
Where shall we go?
Let's swing down number 13.
13.
Yeah, well, I'm in the middle of doing the floater dailies right now, so I'll join you once I'm done with that.
Okay.
Lucky 13.
Whee!
So we don't want to lend our camera to anything like that. So
no. This is why we can't have nice things.
We don't want to promote any of that thing to our 25 listeners.
Garthon's very impressionable.
Yes. This is just for Garthon.
I just
to
noticed
save his
something
fratted with the mind.
If you're near the start point of the biathlon and you rezone, it'll actually dump you at the start line for the biathlon.
Ooh, I like that Caracol, the stripy one.
Kind of looks like a yellowish Garfield.
Yeah.
What's the next event, anyways? Oh, dance off.
Dance off. And
time for people to watch a Xinti dance.
We're getting an audio again from someone.
That's me. I'm just finishing up the.
Let's see. We got a new dance leader.
No, that's not a dance leader.
He looks like a dance leader. Come on.
No, that's Leviathan 99.
Yay! Well, yeah, I know. We've been seeing him around
Leviathan 99 goes back to like the earliest days of the Foundry. He used to post some stuff on Starbase UGC.
Yeah.
6 years ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he's. I think he can be a proper substitute since Zero's moved to a different team. So, I mean, that could be Cryptic's way of just. Adjusting.
Well, they're not going to give him what he wants, so might as well make him dance leader.
Well, yeah, I mean, in a career, you got to make some tough choices. So if it comes down to, well, that's not going to work out. Well, I mean, this could be a new gig. This could be a new gig for him. I mean, he's got that work experience of doing that coordination in a public space. So, hey, this might be a new calling. But yeah, I did want to throw out there since Garthon's in the chat right now, that Legion of Myth this Thursday is going to do their big Stoa-palooza. So they've got a whole mess of giveaways lined up and soon, including some pretty large yes. But it's basically just during their normal Foundry play this week. They're going to be doing a bunch of stuff like that. So good way to spend a Thursday evening.
What time is that?
I believe they start at... That's a good question because me and Garthon never know. So I think around, I'm gonna just check. Hey, we got Zero on this one. I think it's 8 o'clock Central, so that would be 7 o'clock Eastern, 9 or 10 Pacific. Or it might be getting. Oh no, I'm going the complete opposite direction. So that would be 9 Eastern. 6 Pacific, but I'm just checking out their Twitter feed right now just so I can be absolutely sure that I'm giving out the right time. But it's generally later evening. There we go. So
it's like 9:30 Eastern, so 8:30 Central.
8 Central, 9 Eastern.
7:30 Mountain.
Not 7:30, just 9. This is
that's right, because they start a half hour before we end.
This is Thursday. This is Thursday. I'm looking at the information right now.
No, I meant their time
has
typically been around.
On Saturday. This is Thursday. So next Thursday, when they're doing their Star Trek Online Foundry stuff.
Wait, this Thursday or next Thursday?
This Thursday, coming. This week. I got to dance now. But anyway.
I'm just messing with you now.
So, okay.
You said Tuesday, right?
No, Thursday. The one with the TH. So it's 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and then whatever that is Pacific. And Guro isn't dancing. She is disobeying my orders.
I have a question. This Trill wearing this yellow outfit I'm standing next to. What outfit is that? Because it has a really
it's
big
the rash guard
Risa logo.
Yeah, that's the rash guard. I can dance now.
That's a cool looking outfit. Of course, the giant Risa logo is an amusing touch, but hey, whatever. one thing that's funny is that while it's a giant logo on the back, it's actually a small combadge-sized logo on the front.
I shall now engage the most hideous dance ever. Actually, or the best dance ever. I got the Switch. I want to make this as the official...
Where do you get that one from?
This is the new... it's in the summer event store. So it's a character unlock box for like 600 favors. But yeah, that... Oh god, the Swish. I want to make this the official diplomatic greeting of the Jem'Hadar. Because it is... You just go up to someone and just start doing it. It's just the best non sequitur. It's like, I don't know what species I am or if this... What's doing this in front of me right now. Oh, Just Dance, you say? You know...
The basic or the mix? I always get this...
Just Dance is actually... you do whatever dance you want. It's basically just like...
It's very specifically the mix.
I think.
The mix is the one that'll give you credit, even though she does the basic.
Okay. I actually thought Just Dance was just pick whatever random thing you wanted.
I don't think it gives you credit for that though. If you do other ones.
Yeah, it only gives you credit for a mix.
I like that though. You do. Araku-kan, do the dance of greeting.
Doing the dance. Oh dear God. Why, Weston? Why? Why that one? Why?
Oh, you just answered your own question. That's why.
Basically.
So, Dragoon, what have you been working on?
I was working on the 26th Century mission. I'm working on trying to fill out the shield generator interior, and I've made some progress on that. Unfortunately, this week has been crazy with work, and so I ended up working through this last weekend, so I haven't had much time lately.
Well, that happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, Foundry doesn't pay the bills.
If only.
I keep saying that Cryptic needs to hire a bunch of Foundry authors just to make secondary content.
I just noticed something that's very interesting to me, and it's something I wish we had the ability to do, either in Foundry or in the main game. Because if you look at one of the vacationer NPCs that's standing over next to the dance leader, you'll notice something interesting about her character model. It has like a purplish gray skin and lime green version of trill spots.
But we can change the color of our trill spots, right?
I believe so, yeah.
On aliens, not trill.
No, we can only do trill spots on the face for aliens, not the body.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Trust me, I've extensively researched this because my first character has trill spots because she's canonically half Creosian, and oh yeah, by the way, we can't do trill spots on the body of aliens. Although that's an amusing story note is that trill spots are actually not the same as Creosian spots. They look similar, but one critical difference is that Creosian spots actually stop at the base of the spine, and they loop around the back instead of going down the side all the way. And of course, we don't actually have that variation of the spots in the game.
No, we don't. Life is about limitations, right? We're overcoming them.
Speaking of which, I am almost to the asset limit on the shield generator interior. Got like 10 assets left, and I still have to light the hallways.
But do you?
Well,
Yes.
they're a little dark right now. I mean, I've got a lot more detail than was in there now, but I'm going to have to figure out how to be more economical.
Yeah,
Well-
I had to on the map I showed off last week. I'm having to script some stuff in there now that needs some assets. So I started having to like make those hard choices of like, do I really need this fancy carpet pattern? Yes.
Well, I got a bunch of bottles in the bar I can strip out if I really need this space.
Yeah,
There are actually.
Why is there a
you
bar on the
might
shield
be able
generator?
to find a like
This is a lounge.
pile of bottles that you could replace them with.
And the thing is huge. I mean, it's
Oh, so this is the shield generator thing, but why is there a lounge?
because
But I guess the
people are
answer is
stationed there.
because shield generator duty is super boring.
Yeah, it's basically it's a Federation starbase that's been made in the Foundry. Of course, it's going to have a bar.
Well, that's true. We can't not do a bar. I blame the Mos Eisley Cantina scene for that.
Yep.
Well, I mean, when I built that, what was the race called again? The Beta Rana incident mission I did, I actually built a bar in that one simply because of the fact that part of my concept for this starbase is that the aliens who built it live there more or less permanently, so they, made it comfortable.
Find it kind of interesting that for a guy who doesn't drink, I have an awful lot of alcohol in my missions.
Well, actually, that's one interesting thing is that the whole social drinking concept doesn't require you to drink alcohol. It just requires
true.
you to hang out with people while consuming beverages.
I mean, I'll absolutely
Also-
go to a bar with you and drink Sprite.
Well, I mean, the important part is hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the interesting things is that when I did the bar thing, I actually had this thing on the side where it has like an alien video game that's like has two of the aliens playing it. Needless to say, I don't bother even pretending to explain the rules. I just note that there are two of them playing this video game over on the side of the room. And for
Just
the
reminds me of that scene in DS9 where Worf is watching Jadzia play Tonko and has to admit that he has no idea what's going on.
Has anyone ever
Well,
tried to come up with the
it's,
rules for Tongo?
well, you can like halfway come up with a set of rules. It's just that anything that you come up with is going to be as incomplete as making a set of rules for that card game Kirk invented.
Oh, well,
Has
in
been.
that case, he was actually making it up and trying to make
Well,
it as
you know,
ridiculous as
Well,
possible.
The thing is, though, is that Tongo was one of those things where in universe there is no explanation for what they're talking about when they say that someone got a certain hand or what have you. It just it's there.
It kind of amused me. I think during one of the live streams, they said something about that lots of players had requested Tongo, and they something they'd love to do eventually, which is their standard line, of course.
Right
But
after poker.
it's like you would have to create a rule set.
I figure it's like a cross between poker and
See
Monopoly.
on screen,
Well, okay.
which makes sense for
The
Ferengi.
rules for it seem to be a lot like poker in that you collect sets of things, and that gives you points or what have you. It's just that, unlike poker, apparently you keep your cards, and there's a line that Bashir says in one of them where apparently, unlike poker, you are working to build up a better hand as you play the game, which is kind of like things like bridge, or not bridge, but
Pinochle?
canasta, I guess. I don't know, because you play cards, you get cards, and then at the end of the game, whoever has the best hand wins, or something like that.
What you would have to do is really examine those episodes and see if you could kind of construct one that was loosely based on what you see.
Although I will say, in terms of making an entertaining game, that's probably not the best place to start for something that's functional and competitive. You generally want to kind of start with I don't know, something else, because I'm just going to say that there might be some mechanics there that weren't necessarily designed to be played well.
They're just designed to look interesting on screen.
Yeah.
Kind of how
Just to
how
fill-
LCARS is actually a terrible user interface.
Mm.
The basic concept of LCARS isn't bad. It's just that
Just nonsensical.
it's just
Nothing's
that
labeled.
the people who made the props in universe didn't actually make them to be functional. So the LCARS consoles that you see in universe typically don't actually do anything. It's possible to make a variation that does do something. It's just one of those things where you have to take the time and effort to actually do it, because in some of the episodes they show the people going through a digital database, and in those episodes they show what is actually a functional interface for scrolling through database entries. I mean, you have a big screen that displays whatever option you're looking at currently. You have a list of things to cycle through. You have scroll bars to change the list of options that are currently displayed on the screen, and so on and so forth. And when it shows that sort of like a thought out interface, LCARS actually works. It's just that most of the episodes in which you see LCARS, they don't do that. They
Well,
just
most of the
like,
time
have
they're
a bunch
just
of
Okuda-
random placed buttons and a few.
I think Okuda had
pictures.
things in mind when he made them. I think he had some general ideas of, this does this, and this does this, and this does this.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at them, you can kind of see there's some broad stroke thoughts to things. It just if you get into any
very
specifics,
broad strokes, though.
all the buttons are like labeled with random numbers and stuff like
Like
that.
on the helm
like that.
console, there is something that is quite clearly a thing for steering the ship. How it works is a little murky, but
But I mean,
it's
the
like-
bars will have like sections that are labeled clearly, like weapons control or torpedo systems or something like that.
Or like when they show O'Brien working the transporter pad, you see a bunch of buttons where it has what looks like a keypad for typing in coordinates or something, and that sort of thing. It's just that there isn't actually like labels on the buttons. They're basically just blank buttons that he's tapping on, and then there's the slide bar that he slides up and down as he's energizing the transporter, and there's never an explanation for why he slides the bar up and down. But
It mirrors TOS where they have the sliders.
Yeah. Well, in some of the episodes where the transporter isn't working right, he'll like start sliding it up to energize the transporter, then stop when he realizes that the transport isn't working, and stop trying to slide it up because the transporter isn't working, and then go back to the like keypad and punch a bunch of buttons before he
oh no, I got disqualified. Oops.
Goes back to sliding the thing up again. It's never explained, what exactly he's doing, but technobabble and that sort of thing.
Well, it's things that don't necessarily require explanation. I saw somebody
Technobabble the science.
I saw somebody start a Reddit thread the other day asking why do they always slide the buttons on the transporter, and I'm thinking to myself, well, the only real explanation is because that looks more interesting on TV than pressing a button.
Yeah, pretty much. it gives you the impression that there's some skill involved in operating the transporter beyond typing in coordinates and telling the transporter to beam the person up.
I'm always
in
of the
the,
opinion that, I know we like in-universe explanations, but sometimes the out-of-universe one is the only one.
Yeah.
This
So
is
in
very
the,
true.
In the technical manual, it goes through like the full explanation of the transport sequence and like the different stages of every it goes through. So it is a process.
Skin first, then the bones, and then you bring the rest of the meat along.
Ooh, got third.
Yay! I didn't. Oh well.
So I can tell you guys what I've been working on, although you, of course, already know because you follow me on Twitter. So I actually, for once, finished a Foundry project and published it.
Yay!
Horrifying.
Yeah. I know. What is wrong with the world? Yeah, so I spent most of the morning of the 4th of July finishing up my baseball stadium and putting it out because I wanted to try and get it out quickly after Cryptic released the baseball uniforms, strike while the iron is hot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the one for the Vulcan team, the Shikar Logicians. So it's naturally overcast and red.
You know what? Now I'm going to have to make one for the Orion team I invented just because I invented an Orion team.
Well, Thomas invented an Orion team with his league. The Orion Buccaneers.
Really? That's cool.
One thing,
that.
yeah, and I have a suspicion that they might put more uniforms in from Thomas's teams next year and the year after that.
Well,
Yeah,
certainly
maybe.
if Thomas has anything to say
created
about
about
it.
16 teams. It's probably Thomas making them, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, it's what he does. Let's be honest.
So I know he does do a lot of character art. I'm sure he knows how.
Yeah, and we're still eyeing.
Well,
At
he
some
does
point.
environmental art, which is a little different.
Well, I think he does both. Honestly, I think it's really a mixture of the two things because
We're talking about Thomas. He's a ship artist, not Taco.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see, Thomas the Cat is the guy who made the mini game interfaces. He also does signage, apparently, like making those funny signs at Earth Space Dock that say, "Do not open window, or you will cause explosive decompression," or something like that.
We used to call him Sign Guy. He did the signs for old ESD when they redid the signs years and years ago.
But he doesn't do the act map building. Taco and some other guys do that, but he adds certain decorative flourishes, I guess you could call it.
But in any case, I suspect they will add more teams next year.
I mean, makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like how they put a certain set of colors of floaters in the first year they had floaters, and then next year they had floaters. They had a different set of colors they added.
Mm-hmm. Because they can only spend X amount of time on stuff for this event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So put in some, next year do more. But in any case, I've been thinking about doing some more baseball saves. Taking the basic shell of the one that I built and changing the details. So to make one for the vacation, for the uniforms that we have. So for the vacations, and what's the other one?
Ferengi.
Ferengi, yes. So obviously that one has to be raining.
Yeah.
But not enough to call off the game.
What you can do for this project file is build it all you've got your one project for the Vulcan map. As a next map, build the next stadium and let players know the sequence so they can basically just say, hey, these are the baseball stadiums for X, Y, and Z teams. Go to these maps in sequence to to access. So that
And that's
way
kind of what I was thinking, rather than trying to do them as separate projects.
Yeah, because it also just aggregates it too, because then, it's a lot easier to find.
I just thought of a basic concept for the Ferengi one, because what canonically is the distinctive characteristic of Ferenginar?
Swamp, Dark Tower, and raining.
Exactly. So you are going to have a swampy but relatively flat area that the Ferengi Stadium is located in.
Well, it feels like logically what they'd really do is build a dome.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that.
But I'm not sure I
No.
want to do that in the Foundry.
They would cheap out. They wouldn't build a dome, and they absolutely wouldn't cancel the game because they would have to issue refunds then.
See, here's the thing though. It's Ferenginar. The rain is expected. It's just part of playing the game on Ferenginars that you're playing in the rain.
Just like on Andoria, the part of the game is playing in the snow.
Exactly. Oh, now I feel the need to do Andorian costumes.
If the Holbus map didn't have built-in low gravity, you could just use that and have the force field dome.
That's exactly what I was thinking, but then it
now
has
that I
low
think
grav.
about
I'm like,
it,
I don't want to do that.
There is.
What is the gravity of Andor, anyways?
It seemed pretty normal.
Yeah,
when
it's
Enterprise.
canonically established as it's about Earth standard. Because they didn't make a point of it.
They do visit Andoria once.
Because then Andorians would have a hard time visiting any other planet.
Well, they have a hard time anyways, because they think that most other planets are sweltering hot, especially Vulcan.
Yeah.
I did have a line in the. I kind of addressed a few of these things when I did all those preseason preview things that I posted. Like I had one line that said, for some of the teams that are based on the moon, I said, the full season playing at full gravity is kind of hard on players from the moon sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I did something like, the Andorian team used to lose all the time on Vulcan because they couldn't stand the heat, so they moved their spring training site there.
Actually, for the Andorian team, you could mention that they have a special away uniform for Vulcan that has thermal insulation. Kind of like a high-tech built-in refrigeration system to keep them cool.
Someone also on the forums mentioned something about low gravity, and I was like, well, I think the league would mandate a standard gravity at every baseball stadium, so some of them would probably have some artificial gravity.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought of something. What if there's an Elassian team? I mean, because that's one of the canonical races that comes from a planet where the gravity is much lower than that of Earth.
It's Deep Space Nine, where...
Yes, that one.
Oh, that one,
yeah.
Okay.
The one thing I'll say on that point, though, is that if they're playing under standard gravity and they have standard musculature for a species that's been developed in a low-gravity field, they're probably not going to be competitive at the major leagues.
On the Deep Space Nine episode, the girl had the whole price for her body.
Yeah,
so
and she couldn't get around her
regular gravity.
Yeah, it's one of those things, though. If you're developing a league for it, you could have a team of that playing with those devices, but then is that a mechanical aid, and where does that end for the other species?
I mean yes, one could argue
as long as it's
that
stringently regulated. So
I would
not to give
I would
them
just
advantage.
say maybe separate league for that one.
In fairness,
not quite
don't
sure.
the
low
Vulcans
grav
have a
league?
strategic advantage over everyone except Klingons?
Well, Caitians can jump really high.
That's true. Did you work
Make
that
great
into your article?
outfielders. I did, yes. When you're working on things like this that are sort of just, for the heck of it, you don't have to necessarily think through everything.
Well, one could argue that the Ferengi's hearing abilities also give them something of an advantage, because It's easier for them to track the locations of the other players while playing.
Or it could be at a disadvantage because of the crowd.
Hmm.
It's like, and the crowd goes wild, then the Ferengi players fall on the ground, clutching their ears.
I mean, yes, that is true.
But in any case, my Vulcan baseball stadium is currently up. It is out of the review section. It's called the Saval Memorial Baseball Stadium. I did give it a ridiculously long name, as you guys suggested. It's something like the Saval Institute for the Understanding of Other Cultures Through Competitive Sporting Events, or something like that. But for the Foundry Project title, I just said Saval Memorial Baseball Stadium.
I now have the option to get baseball uniforms.
Do it.
Yay, baseball.
Or the baseball emote.
I go with uniforms.
I go uniforms first and then get the emote. But I mean, you got to get the emote. It's awesome.
Saving up for a swimsuit on this character.
Hmm.
I had to get the floater first. I got that. Now,
Yeah, my Jim Hadar guy didn't have a floater at all. So I went through my characters to see which ones had favors through some of my account bank, and got him one of the new impulsive floaters. Oh boy, are those things hard to control. Ridiculously fast, if you can keep them going in the direction you want.
So I think one of the things we've had since we talked last was we actually did talk about it. Had a new featured episode.
Yep.
We did talk about that last time. But I'm curious what you guys think of the sort of the current state of affairs. We have wrapped up this plot line. We have a little bit new with the Jem'Hadar in that they're being given more independence.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I think could play into Foundry missions.
Oh yeah. Certainly, such as,
also,
for example,
apparently it's canonical that Loris is terrible when it comes to shooting to kill.
and receives visions from the prophets, apparently.
Yes, that's another thing that's interesting. Is apparently the orb of whatever.
the Arbor of Peace.
Yeah. It's like, what specific reason do the prophets have for this? Well, the Cisco probably knows, but he's not telling us.
They can't afford him yet.
Duncan, you were about to say something.
oh yeah, basically, it's stuff Foundry authors can approach, such as for example, a Foundry challenge.
Yes, a Foundry challenge.
Foundry challenge.
Kale had indicated that they would like to do an official one. Perhaps with our help, we'd be happy to do so. And now that he is back from vacation, we can approach him about that.
Maybe in exchange for baseball hats, because I'm just looking at those right now, and those are pretty awesome. It's just we need them more than just the baseball subcategory.
Yeah, that's one thing that people mentioned being disappointed at. Is that you don't even have the ability to mix it with the off-duty pants and shirts.
Yeah, that's just the one thing. It's just like, we got baseball hats. Why can't we freaking use them?
Well, what I want is one that... Quiet, you.
I want hats.
Say what I want is one that displays your ship's registry number.
Ooh.
That would be cool.
So it's like the NX-01 hat. Only it's whatever your ship is.
Or maybe your ship name.
I'm chasing someone down.
Maybe it displays your ship name, but it cuts it off like Disco.
It should display your title. So
No, just like halfway.
Everyone's hat can say moist.
Oh man, I mean, just like thinking about like, like if someone from Cryptic's listening to this, just thinking like, do you guys realize how hard it would be to get this as an auto-updating reference and the text not to break in some way?
Yeah,
I say
yes,
let it break.
I realize how hard it is. That's not necessarily a factor
Nope.
for me.
We just want it done. Make it.
That's only a factor for the person who has to do it.
So we're basically So we're veterinarians.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like my old approach to doing requests. Here's the list of things I would like for you to do. It's up to you which ones you do and what order you do them in. But this is what I would like for you to do.
Or just
Obviously, if you can't
just as
do it, then
as
do
a
something
general
you can't do.
rule, I'd like to assume that nothing is easy that
Oh,
I
yeah.
think of as far as game developing goes, because I have no knowledge of game developing.
So I was just making the joke that we're basically doing the veterinary approach of we're just going to make the suggestion and and we'll just leave it to your hands to get it done within this time, or else we'll send assassins with stabby things. Because
Wait, we can afford
what-
assassins?
What
well,
veterinarian are you
we've got
going to?
Bazag.
Please?
We've got Bazag. I mean,
That's true.
he's our liquidator.
Bazag's not really an assassin, though.
Have you
He's-
seen what
it's-
he does every time he gets into a stream? He can't be stopped.
it's
More of a
it's
kinder,
like
gentler assassin.
Yes.
Well, you
I
should
would
see
go
what he
with,
does at
like,
conventions.
what Bazag does is kind of like unleashing an army of Terminators to take care of your problems. Your problems would go away, but maybe so will half of the local population
Stab,
as unavoidable collateral damage.
stab, 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 stab.
You should see what he does at conventions. He hands out a little card that says, "You have been stabbed by Bazag."
Why didn't we bring that on the stream? Come on.
What does it say on the back?
I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure it says something
I'm sure
specific.
I've got one somewhere.
Doesn't it?
Well, one of the most
the other one I
entertaining
have
things
is
I
Loot
remember
Critters
from one of
cards.
the Let's Plays we did with Bazag is when we are looking at it's like, oh, there's a board cube for us to kill. And Bazag is like, oh, yeah, by the way, watch this. And then just like Alpha strikes the board cube into oblivion.
So
Pretty sure
anyway,
those-
though,
Cards on the back said stab equals hello or something like that.
but yeah, I mean, to get back, we want hats.
Hats are awesome.
We want more hats.
Hats
are
of
awesome.
many kinds.
And then getting back a step before that, yeah, we're thinking about doing that next Foundry Challenge. Kale said we should talk to him about it. I don't know in what format. So if he's listening, let us know.
So,
Um,
what do
I
you
don't know
feel
what to
is
do.
a subject specific enough to make it a challenge, but not so specific that it makes it so too few people would actually want to do it?
A challenge for missions set in the Gamma Quadrant.
now that's reasonable because I mean we do have doors there, right?
Yeah, the only thing we're lacking are Herc combat units. And that's a big part of what's going on.
Don't make it involve her.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
We can
Gems
fake
are
fake
friendly.
space.
we can fake them in space. It's going to be noticeable, though. So we don't have the Herc stuff. I mean, the other thing we could do is just do something with the Dominion or the Cardassians in the Alpha Quadrant.
Well,
So we can
one
turn
thing
that
that
around a little
occurs
bit.
to me is that even if it's set in the Gamma Quadrant and it involves the Dominion, it doesn't need to involve the Herc.
Yeah, it's just that the Herc have been the big baddies throughout the whole
Right.
arc.
but-
So
and I think it would be
not
good to
having-
have some that aren't, emissions that don't involve her.
What if
Yeah.
what if we were to set
Or
it
we
like
got-
after the Herc conflict? So say
Yeah,
the Herc have
kind
been
of.
are no longer a threat. What's happening in the Gamma Quadrant after this?
yeah, that's
the
I
sort of
would.
thing I was
That-
thinking.
That
I
helps.
like that just because it explicitly moves the Herc aside because it's just the Herc thing. If we give it make it a little too broad, I think people might try to invoke the Herc through compromises, which might make missions stand out as a little bit more improvised than they should be when we get into the point where we do have the Herc in the Foundry. So yeah, I like that of make a mission just in the aftermath to Victorious Life. And then the Gamma Quadrant, since I think with the way Cryptic's been telegraphing the next series of events, it might not be too Gamma Quadrant focused. at least in the main subject material.
Yeah,
Such
it kind of
that-
seems like they're moving on.
Yeah, so I think we'll be safe for, at least in the context of a Foundry challenge, or reasonably safe to do some world building in the Gamma Quadrant.
Although they might do something with like the Herc rebuilding and use that as a lead-in.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, but nothing that's going to be like reshaping quadrant dynamics again.
No.
That's the only reservation I'd have. Like, I was a little worried that they might actually destroy the Dominion. So just like before we got that last episode, so I'm like, I just want to be a little careful here.
So you said they've been telegraphing
Okay,
where we're going
I
next.
just
What do
learned
you think
something
that
about
is?
the Oregon
Klingon.
Yep.
Klingon and Discovery.
Interesting. Yeah, potentially.
Anyways,
By the way, I
what I
posted
just
a,
learned about the Horgon is that if you manage to collect the 10 Horgons but don't turn the mission in before the end of the event, you can actually still turn the mission in for your bonus, and you actually get the full bonus even if you turn it in late.
Because the
It's
mission's just waiting to
you can't
complete.
complete the mission outside the Horgon Hunt event.
And now it's biathlon time. Let's see if I can actually get it this time. It was the
Yep.
transition.
it's always the transition.
From-
Got to be
yeah.
careful.
Yeah, I have that get me a lot.
So far,
Also,
my
this guy has a terrible floater, so I'm probably not going to get a place. But hey, whatever.
yeah,
I get
that's
2
been my
tags
night.
for
Actually,
participating.
I have done it. I think I've had better results with it on console than I have on PC.
Due to less players or what?
Well,
I don't know.
No,
Probably less
it's
experience,
just
too.
it seemed easier, and plus I had a less
Wait a
fast
second.
power board.
This one guy here has a power board with a baseball logo on it. Is that the Logician's power board?
That looks like the
The-
Niners.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the Niners. It's got Deep
Niners?
Space Nine on it.
Oh, okay.
But he's going to be faster than all of us with the freebie boards.
Yeah,
I think actually my experience with the transition from power board to floater was easier with a slower power board.
Well, it's
Well-
like they got that one turn.
Oh no! I've been Kimi Räikkönen.
Crashed out on the first lap.
No, pushed off.
Oh, you pinballed out of bounds or something?
No, someone pushed me off in the first turn.
Oh. Hmm.
I knew one person who would get that.
Yep.
Oh,
For those who don't, there was a Formula One race over the weekend where on the very first lap, the guy who was on pole position was hit in the back and turned around at the second turn, actually.
Oh, I am lagging horribly. I have no idea whether I'm ahead or behind of the other
No.
racers because they keep bouncing around and I can't see anything. Oh well. Oh, come
I had to turn
on.
around to get through the first ring.
I had a massive lag spike right as I got to the transition, and
I don't think I'm racing now because I got, I got dinged
Must
a
have got
little bit.
disconnected or
Well, it's
disqualified.
I went at I kind of went on the terrain a little bit. I wasn't too far out of bounds, but my power board deactivated.
got second. Who got
well,
first?
did you see one of those yellow exclamation points in the little targeting reticle on the screen?
No, well, I know I'm definitely been disqualified, so there's no question about that.
You'll be able to see the rings on your
Because
mini map if you
if
don't.
you
Yes,
see one of
that
those
is what I'm
targeting reticles, it's still pointing you to an objective, and that means you haven't been disqualified.
Or I can just look at the mini map.
Me,
and see
I
that
didn't
there's
get
no objectives,
disqualified even
so
though
therefore I know.
I completely lost control of what I was doing, and I have 30 seconds to finish, and I'm half done with the flying part on a really slow floater. Oh boy.
Well, that's what happened to me the first time we tried it.
I really hope I stop rubber banding because that massive lag spike was bad.
I still, by and large, prefer the winter race.
Yeah, I like the winter race a little bit better too. It's a lot with the tricks you can do and the speed. Yeah, I mean, there's more control to it. There's more finesse. This one is a lot sloppier.
Yes.
And yeah,
to be honest,
the
flying ring part of this race actually has several aspects to it that I personally feel the winter race would benefit from. And it was probably designed that way because the devs were trying to come up with a way to prevent people from cheating like they do in the winter event. Because it requires you to do a bunch of things in sequence. And you can't really bypass it when you have to do go through 16 checkpoints one at a time. You can't bypass the checkpoints and skip straight to the end, which is what the winter event apparently has an issue with because there's only one actual objective.
I haven't heard of that going on in the last maybe 2 years. There used to be a thing where you jump off the cliff.
Worked at improving it. I don't think they actually fully fixed it. They just made it so that it's ridiculously hard and that you can't do anything else with the character while you're in the process of cheating.
Yeah, it's something I haven't seen it be a problem. So the principle is the same, but it's basically where you see a lot more going on is just people doing a lot of speed buffs and then just using some standard tactics for how to minimize your basically keep your speed at max level. But at the same time, that just employs a set of skills that you can develop. It just plays to the mechanics.
Yeah, that's skill, not cheating.
Well, I mean, there are certain
that's what I do.
Things where
it's not cheating.
It's basically just like building a character around doing foot races, and that that's a legitimate thing.
Yeah, it's basically like F1, where you have a set of you have a lot of things you can itemize to improve your performance. And then you've also got the tactics involved with the performance, which also include just trying to maximize the power and make sure that you don't fall off, which is basically I'm going to employ my Kerr system or ERSK.
In this case, things like the when you rolled in the 8472 armor gives you a speed buff.
Yeah, and then there's a bunch of trades too that also improve performance. So yeah, I mean, it's.
But I got to tell you, frankly, I tend to regularly beat people who are using those.
Oh yeah,
so there is a skill component.
Yeah.
There's a massive skill component, just simply because of the fact that, the faster you move, the faster you need to be able to react as you go around turns, and if you're going fast enough. Messing up in certain spots will actually cause you to pinball completely off the course.
Yeah. The one thing that I see that people do that feels a little cheap is the way that you can basically it's a hyper bouncing. You get the timing just right and you can just basically move at will.
Yeah, bunny hopping.
Yeah, the hyper bunny hopping, not just bunny hopping around a corner, but continuously doing it. Then it's just you're basically just walking.
I've never been able to do that.
Yeah, I
don't understand how that even works conceptually.
Doing it just constantly, that's the one where it's okay, that's the highest performance. I don't quite get how that works. I can do it around the corner just fine, so I can do the quick jump in turn, but it's the constant one where it's just that's a little excessive.
Well, there's one version of hopping where the person jumps higher than is normally possible. That's the one that I've always found to be kind of questionable as to whether it's directly cheating or if they're actually doing something that's, legit.
I couldn't tell you because I don't really know how it works. The times I've tried, I haven't really been able to get it to work. But anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're in the summer event and that means not a whole lot else going on, generally speaking.
'Cause
I think it's going to be a little while before we see another featured episode. That last one released quite quick, but this, but that's probably because they had it done or mostly done.
It seems like we're going to get into a pretty good status quo period. I think we might have like an outro episode this season, kind of like how we had just in a bunch of other instances too, where it's just
like dust to dust.
There's this episode that's used as a setup mission for the next story arc, and it's not really part of the story arc. It just it's related to the story arc.
Yeah. So, and we've got plenty of examples of that. So that's probably pretty likely. So that means we're maybe a month. Yeah.
The relic I just pulled up says Vorgon ship defense data, complete files and schematics for the shielding systems and deflector array utilized by the Xiphias class vessel.
Yeah, it's
and they're
because
putting Xiphias instead of Nord on that one.
Yeah, Xiphias was the first Vorgon ship they added, and also coincided with the artifact update. So that's basically a little bit of cross promotion.
I just got the word again.
I got the ship deck plans of the Nord class.
I'm going in the wrong direction.
I basically just walked into mine. I was like, I'll just go over here. Oh, found it. Yeah, so the one thing to look out for is just the for the Foundry stuff is that now that Cryptic's past that, they might have a little bit more time to work on the Foundry, which we may have actually seen just recently, because a bug that's been affecting us in a very serious way has been a little bit of wonkiness with the scroll wheel. So you could scroll in, but you couldn't scroll out. That's been fixed. It's still very sensitive, so I think they might still need to fine-tune it a bit, but the basic problem that we're having is no longer applicable. We can use the scroll wheel now, but players may find it a little bit finicky.
I did notice that there is one, I guess you could call it a bug that did get fixed, and that's a bad thing, is that now when a map attempts to automatically kick you out when you zone into it, it will lock you in an endless loop of the game automatically kicking you out and then stuffing you back where you started.
Yeah, that's just been a product of the lack of map transitions,
which is
that's not
something that needs to be fixed in and of itself, because it makes it exceptionally difficult to actually do stuff in the Foundry.
Yeah, I mean that's and that's something we've talked about for a long time. So it makes it hard to get the sense of a flow from missions. You really got to make sure you're thinking about flow and pacing a lot as you're building individual maps, and then once you get to the finished product, you test play the crap out of the finished product just to get a good sense of how it's working live.
Published testing.
Yes, published testing is now more important because we don't have those transitions.
Unfortunate, but
one thing
what
that
it is, I suppose.
One thing that I believe is new in the main game this year for the summer event is you can do the the flying high that you do to get the ship. You can do them again for low lunat favors, I think.
Oh yeah,
you could do that before.
Yeah, you could do that before.
Believe it or not, on my Foundry character, I have her go to Risa and do flying high just so that I can turn in the event tokens for marks. Yeah, I know. It's kind of
now
it's
is
not
that
the
something
best
that you
way
can still
to get
do?
marks in the game, but it does give you a few marks.
Is that something you can still do? Get your Foundry character to Risa?
Well, yeah, it's easy actually, because of the fact that you have Foundry doors on Risa, so you just like play from start of mission, and it just like automatically puts you on the beach.
Because I'm thinking about obviously we have volumes for floaters, but a lot of your Foundry characters are not going to have floaters, so this is a way for them to get floaters, so you can test that.
I mean, also there's one of the cheap junk floaters for 50 tokens.
Yeah.
You have to have a level 10 character.
Probably, but whatever.
Yes, that would be true.
Yeah, so you got.
I mean, for me, it's no problem because my Foundry character is level 60.
Yeah, most authors though, it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, probably.
To be honest, there's actually a very simple way to do it. It's one of those like things that it feels like cheating, but let's face it, you have few options, so you might as well go for it. Duty officers. That is actually how I got Teton to level 60, is spamming all the duty officer missions I could.
Again, still not
Yeah,
unlocked
except
until
to do
level 10.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
11 technically for most characters.
Well, okay, yeah, but
It's an imperfect system.
Yeah.
Ideally, they would stick your Foundry test character as max level automatically or something like that.
You can actually set your Foundry character to level 30 in an Everwinter Foundry. Of course, that's not max level in Neverwinter any more than it is in Stowe, but you know, it's an improvement over doing everything with a rank 1 scrub.
Yeah, although it's probably unlikely that Cryptic's going to go back to the Foundry and dig into something like that. I mean, it'd be nice in certain circumstances, but it basically is during one time of the year so you can get a floater, so you can test one specific type of volume. So we do have workarounds to that. If for players who really need to get that,
You just have to figure out how to level.
Yeah.
up to 10.
There's some activities
also,
to do that with.
Another thing is that while you can't do story missions because map transitions are broken, you can do daily missions that don't require map transitions. Now, to be honest, there aren't a huge number of those. Defera comes to mind, however, because actually, I'm trying to remember if it's possible to get into the Defera invasion zone without doing map transitions.
Don't imagine it is. But what about Starfleet Academy? Is there a daily mission there?
I don't think so. There's actually no. There's the lore assignments.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Wait, Vulcan. There's one on Vulcan. There's a daily mission on Vulcan.
There's also one on Starbase 39.
Yeah, I was going to say that one.
Some of those might have level prerequisites, but it's a really low level prerequisite. Then, of course, there's always the approach of build a space grinding map to kill a bunch of battleships every day. And yes, it's a small amount of XP, but it's still XP.
Extraordinarily small.
Fun fact, using kill target in as a Foundry character actually is treated as if your Foundry character used one of their abilities to kill the target, so you actually get full loot and stuff. It's just that, like everything else, you only get a certain number of kills per day that give you experience and loot. Which is why I recommend using battleships, because it's based on number of kills solely, so you kill the big things.
So to change the subject completely, I think you guys were working on something about creating some optional dialogue for Dragoon's baseball stadium. His sandlot.
Yes.
Yep,
Well, I outsourced it to DuncanIdaho.
Yeah, I wrote a bunch. I can write more. I wrote 7 optional dialogue scenes so far that we can plonk in there, with probably at least 2 or 3 more for final delivery. So that includes some stuff like Captain Sean complaining about how he's lamenting the fact that the Enterprise was just stolen, well, by Starfleet Security on a very over-enthusiastic security inspection. They took it a little too far, but Yeah, Admiral Aaron's clone cameo, which goes as expected. Jem Hadar scouting out baseball, or the baseball. That's a pretty good ones. But yeah, just a lot of these just little moments just to populate this map out and just give enough for players to spend a little bit of time there and enjoy the scenery.
I just thought of something that would be hilarious. You have a Vorta baseball team, but you also have a Vorta like heiress on the baseball team who, shall we say, has non-traditional ways of catching the ball.
We're definitely kind of thinking about working in like all the different little inside jokes the Foundry Roundtable has accumulated.
Oh yeah.
So Starfleet Security would be represented there. Starfleet Dragoons would be represented there.
Did you guys read what I said the friendly wager was between the two factions?
I haven't had a chance to go through it
did
yet.
not. Yeah.
Oh God. Okay, so basically, whoever loses, that supporting the security force supporting them has to update the files on Memory Alpha and go there.
Okay. You have to.
It's like, are you
also
serious?
include
That's a death trap.
Well, that's the idea. I mean, yeah, the response from Tagoro, especially on that one,
no one goes to Memory Alpha anymore.
That's the line too. It's like, we don't talk about Memory Alpha. No, we don't go to Memory Alpha. It just eyes for the escape. Oh God, yeah. I mean,
you have to have a reference to say this game is taking as long as an Old Lord Skull mission.
We should make notes.
That joke probably predates you, but
yeah, that does predate me. But
he had the original like, oh my God, this mission is so long.
Okay, okay.
It's like 3 or 4.
I'm just gonna. I gotta open up that Google. We could basically just brainstorm that right now, because I was just like, I got the let's see, I got Stealing the Enterprise, which is one of my early shows. And I got Memory Alpha on there. Also, the Immortal Tovan Cube makes an appearance. Yep. Yeah, I got him in there.
What?
Need one that says, one spectator saying to another, there was this guy taking tickets who just stabbed me for no reason.
Yes.
Some Australian guy.
You could do something like maybe Linnea at the game complaining about that time she accidentally walked in on Quinn into the bathroom.
Oh, there's already a Quinn one here. Yeah, it's him ordering a hot dog, and yeah, that one is it's a little classic.
Off color?
No, not off color. It's basically just one of those ones where it's just like, it's almost just a classic skit of what's in a hot dog, set up the bit and then play off the bit, then subvert expectations. So
to be honest, since you're using a Trill and an Ocampa, it would be pretty easy to do a variation of the old what is this strange planet and your strange customs routine? Because let's face it, they're Trill and Ocampa. They're not from Earth.
I do not understand. There is no dog here.
Well, I was going to ask you
I've already got that as basically the joke with the Jem Hadar trying to appreciate baseball. Like, they've been ordered by the founder to learn about the baseball. One of them goes, I have scouted their arsenal. They have many. Oh, I'll just read it.
They have many wooden clubs.
Well, yeah. So I've scouted their armory. I've scouted their armory. Weapons, armor, and the baseballs were being held in large numbers. Were you detected? I am Jem Hadar.
Is there like any inside jokes from your missions that you might want to work in?
For my missions, oh God, I don't know. You got to do one that says, get like a news report or something that says New Romulus was attacked again, and nobody cared.
Well, one thing New
Romulus is always getting attacked.
Or perhaps instead of no one cared, no one noticed.
No one noticed in the after while cleanup efforts were underway after the attack from the previous attack. Yeah.
The invaders entered Pejo's crater and were immediately set upon by a Herosian hunting party.
Yeah. One thing I kind of wanted Drogon to write was basically a pre-game news piece. You find someone who's recording a bit to camera, which is an exocomp, just going over the pre-match of the game. So we'd have to decide which teams are playing. But yeah, just for that little bit of like, we actually got to have some baseball.
I just include. I mean, you'd make it completely ridiculous.
Oh,
yeah.
Speaking of completely ridiculous, I just thought of something. Hirogen hunters attempting to play baseball, because we have canonically established in Voyager that the Hirogen actually care about Earth culture.
Yeah,
Or something like say one team was fined 20 million credits because it turned out that their manager was an Undine.
Sure, that could work.
Nobody's concerned about anything about that. They just find the team because it's cheating.
We had to print a retraction for our previous story, stating that Part 3 had come out.
Oh, it happened to me again. I hit a jump and went up so high that I went outside the board volume.
I got first place.
Oh, I got second.
Crap.
Only because a bunch of people missed the second.
I had that stupid scan for artifact thing still popping up on my screen, and it kept me from grabbing the flags, because when I mashed F, it scanned for an artifact instead of grabbing the flag.
We need a joke about how Cryptic keeps using mission titles that Foundry authors have thought of. Because I know that's happened to a couple of you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, this is hilarious.
Up to dust.
Doing scan for artifact made it so that I was hoverboarding on the bottom instead of where it's supposed to be.
Have Sulu like hiding it behind the bleachers, saying, "Don't tell anyone where I am."
And you got to have Gull Libble as the umpire.
Oh, there we go.
I don't know who that is.
It's
Well,
Gullible.
it's the old
Gullible.
joke. Yeah. When they first introduced, this is when I ran into it. When they first introduced Starfleet Academy, there was a way you could get outside the fence and then jump up on the trees and go up on the top of the buildings, and then you get somebody who was down dancing, asking, "How'd you get up there?" And the standard response was rocket boots. You buy them from Gull Libble, the Cardassian rocket boot salesman.
Yay.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was incredibly stupid, but hey, people did it.
Well, old jokes.
I'm not sure how much it actually counts as a joke, but hey, whatever.
At the time, it was a joke. Now it's if you see it, you chuckle. If you were there.
Yeah. Now it's reached to the point of stale meme, I think.
Memes are always best when they're stale.
Stale
I thought memes were supposed to be dank.
Yeah, I
stale.
no one
I'm not
likes
really sure
dank
there's a
memes.
difference.
You can't. You're not thinking
Dank
of getting
seems
rid
more
of
soggy.
dank.
Like, it's been in a basement for a while.
Yeah, that's kind of the first thing that popped into my head, is that it just calling is something dank makes it feel like it's like soaked in mildew and equally disgusting things that you found on the floor in the basement.
Whereas stale, it's just been sitting in your cupboard for 6 months.
Yeah, so I've got that. I've got the dialogue folder updated with a few notes. So if you guys want, at any time, just go through those. Also, check out the dialogue. Just make sure it's okay for something you guys would publish, because this would be a Greendragoon mission.
Yeah, but I mean,
Well, I have different
collective,
standards for things that appear in Greendragoon missions.
Let's see. Yeah, the Immortal Tovan Keith bit is that. Not my favorite, but that one is. Yeah, I did get the a tardigrade reference in there.
So you got to have. We could do one in the pregame reports. Saying and news from across the league. One of our other reporters was recently jailed for not putting out part 3 of his in-depth series.
Wait. Phrase it as him filing a incomplete mission report with Starfleet Command, where he did like the first 2 parts of the report, but didn't do the final one where he actually explained what the heck he was talking about.
Well, we do want this to be baseball themed, so I was thinking what you could do is...
What you would do is you'd say, and we had planned to have part 3 of our in-depth expose on such and such, but our reporter hasn't completed it, and he has been sacked.
You could also do a that's a good one. The another thing you could try was like a game that's been postponed several times due to rain. Part 3 is scheduled to be held at some point in the indefinite future or something like that. But yeah, I like the part
something like where we're finally getting around to the 3rd game in the series between the Cation Claws and the Niners. This series that actually started back in 1905.
Oh, right. They have a game once every 4 years, but that's 4 years according to the Cation calendar.
Any 26th century references we should work in?
The immortal Tovan Keefe. I mean,
the league's only Nanov player has been doing very well in the minors.
There we go.
Only player in the league who's managed to catch 3 fly balls simultaneously.
Well, he's going to be a catcher.
No, the Nanov.
Well,
not the cat.
Well, the catcher, as in field, the position the Nanov
AI
plays.
Judge Cat has to make an appearance.
Oh, okay.
We have cats
Why
in the
am I
Foundry.
pinballing like that?
AI Judge Cat was brought into complete tie games. Unfortunately, we've never had a tie game because it's baseball.
Well, yeah, it's like we also have a lot of flexibility here with just the fact that we're populating the map, so I could just basically write something with a cat.
But that's kind of the joke, is that we've never actually used AI Judge Cat for anything.
No, well, she's appeared in missions.
Well, it can just be an actual cat, just sitting off to the side somewhere, maybe like next to the umpire.
Yeah, there we go.
We could do something like, I'm just looking at this guy with Undine armor, has color scheme as Iron Man. Could have a commentator saying, and that's the worst Iron Man costume I've ever seen.
Which
first?
Are you saying that because I'm wearing the Undine armor right now?
Is that you?
Well, I mean, this guy does wear the red and gold version of the Undine armor, yes.
Oh, maybe that was you.
Well, okay, certain parts are green. Red, gold, and green.
Our attempt to get hats made, promotional hats made for this game, was thwarted by angry programmers.
Oh, I've already got plenty of hat jokes. Because it's hat day, but the hats haven't arrived yet.
They'll arrive on Tuesday.
I made it. Just barely. In this race, I had things happen to me that I didn't know were possible. Like, you know how you go under the boardwalk at the promenade? I actually managed to pinball off the boardwalk. I have never seen that happen before, and I don't know how. Apparently I hit a rock at just the right angle and the right speed that it bounced me up, into the stone walkway that I was going underneath and bounced off of that. Oy. Oh, well.
Well, gentlemen, I think we probably done enough for one evening.
Unless they want to see us to
Yeah.
do yet another round of the
Yet another
scavenger
round.
hunt.
I think I'll give it a miss.
So, Dragoon, if you want to put up our contact info.
Sure thing. We can be reached by email at foundryroundtable@live.com. We are also on Twitter at foundryroundtab. Drogan can be reached at Drogan1701. Duncan can be reached at Gorgonups_SSF. Mark can be reached at Markhawkman. And I, of course, can be reached at Greendragoon.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we will
Thanks for
say
having
good
me on.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for joining us, Patsix.
Mm-hmm. Take care.